is ACDC, Araceli and Colette, Dynamic Change. My name is Araceli, and today I don't have my logo, but I like this background. Uh, and I am a transition wealth advisor, and I love helping single professional women rearrange their finances so they can pay the debt quicker and retire faster. And I'm here with my partner, Colette.
Hi, everybody. My name is Colette Rabba. I am a residential real estate broker in the GTA. And today we get to talk about the stars of the show.
Yeah.
There's a lot. One of the questions that we get a lot when we start working with someone is, they want to get to know who we are. And that's very important for me when I'm, doing business with someone else. I really want to get to know who they are. And if the stars align.
Yeah.
So that's why. Yeah, Araceli and I really like each other, obviously on a personal level, but on a business level as well, because really how we help our clients is very, very similar. And we both love properties, real estate properties for investment, but also to live in and to help our clients get the financial freedom they deserve through either, residential real estate to rent, short-term rental, long-term rental, Airbnb, whatever way, even a flip, whatever way you want to call it. We love talking about it. So today, what we're going to do a little interview with each other.
Okay.
So I know a lot about Araceli, but I'm going to pretend I don't know a lot about her. So we'll ask and answer a couple questions with each other, so you guys can get to know us, and then that way, if you do have any questions about our backgrounds or what we did in a certain situation that we're going to talk about, please ask us. Please let us know. Please leave comments and notes and whatever other little tidbits that you want for us, because we love answering questions. So are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So you are a transitional wealth advisor. I want to know, how did you get to this point in your career? What made you decide to become this wonderful person?
Okay, well, thank you. So there was actually many things. And the reason that I decided to choose a transition word in my title is because I myself have gone through many transitions. And that really kind of pivoted myself to come to where I am today. The very first transition that I did, and it was a huge one, is when I moved from Mexico to Canada.
Huge. How old?
That was a long, long time ago,
No.
over 25 years ago.
Okay, that's not that bad. But did you come with your parents or by yourself?
No, I came by myself.
Wow.
So it was a crazy decision, but you know what? I was young, but I don't regret it at all. I think that was actually one of the best transitions in my life. It was really hard though, because when I came here, I actually had studied English in Mexico.
Okay.
But when you come here, it's like, okay, now I don't understand anybody. Like, what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
And it took me about 2 years.
Did you know anyone here?
I had a friend that has that's been married to a Canadian for a long time, and she rented rooms. So I rented a room from her, and my intention was to come and learn English so I could work in a company in Mexico, because there's a lot of companies in Mexico that they are foreign, so they require people to speak English. So I said, I could probably do better if I go learn and then come back and get a better job. But I haven't been back since then.
Well, to visit.
To visit, yes. But I mean, to live there. I don't, I've been living actually in Canada longer than I lived in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, don't tell anybody your age.
Of course not. 26. I got here when I was 13.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
And then, so like, what did your upbringing look like? Because it's something that I find with my own story too, that the way my parents were, I mean, that's our first, role models of
Absolutely.
So how did your upbringing, like, what was that like?
Okay, I'm going to give you the short story because I know that we have very limited time, but I was born in Mexico, middle income family. My dad is a mechanic, and he's always been a mechanic, but I think he is an excellent mechanic. I love him to death, but I think he is not a very good business person.
Interesting.
And one of the things that it really kind of resonated with me when I was growing up, I said, no, I don't want to be entrepreneur. I think that that is a lot of struggle. So I associated both words, and that is not to blame him. This is, he did the best he could, but
Yeah.
that's the association that I got from what I saw.
Right.
So when I came here, I actually graduated from engineering school. And another transition that I did, plus learning the language when I came here to Canada, it's a different environment, different language. Now I was a professional that came from another country.
So what, sorry, so what kind of engineering was it?
Mechanical engineering.
And then how do you would have to know, like you learned that
in Mexico, yeah. I graduated there.
And you didn't know any of the English terms for anything that was taught?
That was so hard, because when I was studying to get my license in the province of Ontario, I kind of saw the graphs and charts and I kind of knew what they wanted. But when I started reading, there was the actual technical language is so different, so different. And I was like, oh my God, it was actually the hardest thing that I've ever tried to do, because the language varied. And some people that are foreign, they probably understand what I'm talking about. It's
Absolutely.
just so hard to
Yeah.
try to understand it and then being evaluated on too. So
yes, yeah, of course, yeah.
But
well,
I did it. I finally did it. And I worked in engineering for almost 20 years. So I loved the work, but I think that there was something missing. It was something missing in my life. And the next transition, which it was when I got divorced, so I got married, got divorced, it really kind of asked me, I was asked to go a different direction, because the kind of work that I was doing, it was no longer aligned to what I wanted to do. And so the emotional loss, the financial loss, it made me try to figure out why am I in this position, right? I'm an engineer, I make good money. Why I'm not in a different position, a better position?
right.
That when something like this happened, now I was in debt. I couldn't keep the house that I had. Then I lost my job, and then I went to another job, and it was one thing after another. It was very hard.
Yeah.
And I think everything it was kind of like this vortex. Everything goes wrong in three, right?
Yeah, don't say that.
Well, this
yeah,
is a say, right? But you know what I mean?
Like, this is the thing about really getting to know people on this kind of level, because if you understand a person in that moment of their life and what kind of struggles they're having, not just financially, but mentally and emotionally, it's this big ball of crap sometimes that you have to be like, this is the thing that I'm finding too with a lot of professionals. They hear you, but they don't
hear you.
Understand you. Yeah, they don't understand the complexities of how your brain changes, like your brain chemistry changes when you are going through transition. Like, this is the thing that I find, that's why we're here and we're talking to you, because when people are, especially COVID, oh my goodness, the way people react to things is very, very different, very quick to be emotional about things because of the way of the world. We don't have control. Everybody feels like they're out of control. And this is something that Araceli specializes in, because when someone is going through a separation or a transitional time in their lives, especially as women, it's fight or flight sometimes. Do you recognize that in your clients?
Oh yeah, and believe me, I recognize that in myself, because I went through it, and I wish that I was there for me to help me make better decisions, right?
I say the same thing about me too, that I wish I had a real estate agent like myself when I was buying.
Exactly, because the majority of people, especially financial advisors, are very transactional. They come in, this is what you need. You need to save this much money. You need this much life insurance. You need to save this much for your kids. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's on paper. Here it is.
It's all paper, right? And that anybody can do.
Right. Yeah.
But the other part that you need to relate to your clients about what is it, the emotional component that is creating where you are today,
Right.
it's a different story altogether. And that's, I believe that's one of my gifts, that I can relate to people and I can tailor a plan for them, right?
You give me
So
goosebumps. You give me goosebumps because that's really what like, this is why you and I connect, because right away, the first time, I don't know if I ever told you this, but the first time I met you, like, we were talking about income properties, and we had I think it was lunch or breakfast, I'm not sure. But it was just like, oh my God, I met Araceli. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. She's so smart. Like, oh, this is like, what a great person. I was so excited to meet you. And then we sort of lost touch, and then we got back together.
yeah,
And then, like, we just sort of like, oh my God, yeah, I remember you now. Like, oh,
yeah,
you're brilliant. How can we work together? So this is sort of something that, this is the way life is for me. I'm very much in tune with the people that I really
yes,
have, not a personal connection, but like that our values align. Like,
exactly.
quote me all day long if you want.
And
Like,
I'm
when the
telling you,
values align.
so one of the things that I kind of transitioned to is from when I came to the country, the only thing that I wanted to do is to get a job, a good job, and
Right,
stay there and continue to be there, get married and have babies and be happily ever after, right?
right. That's the
But it
American
just
dream.
doesn't happen. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And another thing that I didn't know, that I didn't grow up with, is that the value of property, to have assets under your name, assets that are producing something for you for the long term. And
Mhm.
that also happened out of necessity, because when I got divorced, I didn't want to rely on, getting remarried and saying, oh, well, I'm going to combine assets with this other person and I'm going to be in a better position. So I'm not saying that you cannot do that. It's just that don't rely on that if it's your situation, right?
Well, but I find, so this is the funny thing from my own perspective, as well as lots of other people that I speak to who are getting married or looking into, they're engaged, like
Yeah,
young couples. They don't really speak about, and when I say this whole alignment, this is something that couples don't have a conversation about, that to say,
absolutely.
what are
I
your
never had
financial
that
goals?
conversation. I never had that conversation with my
Right.
ex-husband.
Oh, no, I didn't either. To say, what are your financial goals? What do you want to do with your
Yeah,
life? Like, how much, do you want to retire when you're, dead in your grave, or do you want to
yeah.
retire like in your 50s? Like,
Mhm.
there's a huge difference. And how do we get there together? Because I don't want to say you should do it alone.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, if you do have, and it doesn't have to be a spouse, it can be a business partner too, that you can
yeah,
grow your wealth with someone. So you can align yourself with people who are very much like you, who want to invest in the real estate market.
yeah,
Let's just say real estate market in this case, where, like, you, let's say you and I, we're like, hey, there's a property. How much money can you borrow? Okay, I can borrow this much money too. Let's go buy it.
yeah. And
And then it's,
exactly, you don't have to do it alone, because I started it by myself and it's very hard. But then I got my partner and things come to you. And believe me, since I started and I merged into my business, I was scared so much because I didn't know if it was going to work.
right.
And the
And
thing
you're
is,
not talking about a
everybody,
personal partner. You're talking about a business partner. Just
yeah, a business partner when I do my properties, but I mean, I'm talking about my business, because what happens is that if you have been conditioned to get a paycheck every 2 weeks,
right.
when you're self-employed, you don't do that anymore. And it's so
But
much harder.
you can do both. You can have a full-time job
Mhm.
and have this income property on the side. So it's
Oh,
not like, oh,
absolutely.
just quit your day job and then everything will fall into place.
No, no, no,
That's
no,
what
no.
we're saying. We're not saying that. But that's good. Okay, so now where you are in being a wealth advisor, like, how did you become a wealth advisor from, having this corporate job? What
Well,
happened?
after I got divorced, I was very angry, to be honest with you, because I didn't know anything. And I really thought that I didn't know how the financial world in Canada worked, because I was an immigrant. But it's not true, because a lot of my clients are Canadians. Like, they're still and they still don't know what to do.
Oh yeah.
So I realized that there is a lack of education. So what I did is I started taking courses and I started to find out all this information. And I said, oh, how come nobody told me this? How come nobody told me this? Right.
Right.
And so it kind of became my mission. And then when I started doing real estate investing, as you know, I have a property here in Canada. And then when I wanted to continue doing that, I started doing in the US because the cash flow is much better. But it was consuming a lot of my time. So I wasn't really wanted to stay in the job anymore.
Yeah.
So I did a transition because now I could have a business and then I could have some time for myself and
Yeah.
manage my own time. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit different, but it is all good. And believe me, I love being an engineer, but I love being with people more. Engineering is
Ah,
more isolated than being with clients, getting to know other
right.
people. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
great. So I don't regret any moment of it. So
Oh,
and
that's
that's how I got here. And then
yay.
through a networking event, then that's how you got here.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to? Okay. So,
Yeah.
wow. All right. How much
So
time?
well, okay. So now
Look
you have
at that.
about 10-15 minutes. Just tell
Okay.
me, Colette, I know that you, the same, I know Colette now, but she wasn't always a real estate agent. So tell me,
No.
what was the transition for you?
Okay. I'll go back. I'll go back. So, grew up in a very traditional, I'm first generation Canadian. So I'm not far from, you coming over when you were young. So I was born here, but my parents were new to the country. My parents are funny. They're German and Middle Eastern. So they met in the Middle East.
Oh wow.
That's a story. That's 10 minutes right there. I'm not going to tell you that story. But my parents are amazing people. My dad also an entrepreneur. I don't really talk about it very often, but if you recognize my last name, that is my family's business is Rapifying Foods. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial spirited house. So my dad was working all the time, all the time. I hardly ever saw him growing up. I remember he would come into my room at night and kiss me goodnight. I'm like, who are you? Oh my God, who's this person kissing me? So that was really, upbringing. It was a little bit sad to not have my, the traditional father. But as a kid, you don't know what the traditional father role is. So my mom, very loving. I love her to death. She's a great mom. She was always there for us. I have siblings too. We all grew up. And immediately, as soon as we could pretty much hold the Windex bottle, we were working in the stores. So really young, I remember cleaning windows. I was below the bar, the half bar that you push the door open. So I was smaller than that with the Windex bottle, cleaning windows, sweeping. I mean, probably not doing a very good job because I was probably 6 or 7, but that's how I grew up. And then I would be paid a chocolate bar. So it's like, oh my God, yeah, of course I want to work, right? So that's how we grew up. And then and my dad's business grew as well. I mean, the stores, now there's over 30. When I was a kid, it was, my dad was just getting his feet wet. So I'm grateful for that too, because I've learned so much through his eyes. So that's,
Good.
on a business aspect of it, maybe I am wiser than my years. I hope to believe that, because we were talking about mentorship before. Araceli and I were talking about it before we went live, and to really think of my dad as being a mentor to me, even though it's an informal kind of situation. At the dinner table, he would always say, stop everything, I'm going to tell you a story, and he'd like make all the kids sit back, and we would all have to like pay attention to him, and he would tell us some kind of business story about how he did something. And to me, that was just priceless, because even though at the time we were all like rolling our eyes and saying, like, we just want to get out, like, can we just leave now, like, oh, it's so boring.
You don't know the value until later, right?
No, but you know what, like, things just like happen to stick, and they are coming back to me in the best times, where I'm like, oh yeah, I should write a book. What would my dad say? That's her. What would my
That's a
dad
good title. I like the title.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So growing up with that, I don't give him enough credit for doing that, because really, my dad is still working he's still working 90 hour, whatever, how many hours
Wow.
a week.
Well, the same with my dad, but it was totally different, right?
Well, that's the kicker, right? So what did he do different than your dad? And I'll tell you what it is. It's people. That's really what it is. It's when you look at, and we had this little discussion too earlier. Fundamentally, he had people that he knew he could call. He knew he could rely on. He knew he had people that said, listen, this is the way you do it. Oh, you want to buy a property? This is how you do it. Go to the bank. Right now, they're giving you 100% mortgage. Like you just have to show them the numbers, give them blah, blah, blah. Go do it and look at the return on it. So this was the other thing too, that he taught me inadvertently, not just the business, but he also owns a lot of properties. So he's like he's my role model because I want to collect properties like him.
Everybody does. Well, yeah, not everybody does.
Right. And the way he did it, a lot of it was timing, and it was a lot of people calling him to say, hey, there's an opportunity. Are you interested? And people that he hired to say, hey, listen, this is what I want. Find it. And they would go out and find it for him. And of course they would get paid because, to have a whatever finder's fee or whatever.
What a great setup.
Right, it is. So really, but enough about my dad.
So how did you get started? What did you do before being a real estate agent?
So this is
why made you become a real estate agent?
This is the funny story. I think it's a funny story because what I did was I went out of high school, I went to graphic design. So I really liked the idea of being artistic and graphic and doing I love color and I liked form and I really enjoyed that sort of, and I thought advertising was the way to go. So marketing, advertising, that was my thing, right? I'm going to go and get a job in marketing. So I did this graphic design stuff. So I graduated, recession hit, couldn't get a job, went back to my family to work. I worked from the ground up. This is the thing, since I was 12 or something, I always worked in the stores. Always, always, always. I have scars to prove it. When Sunday shopping came out, I was the only person in the deli that I was just nonstop for 10 hours on the weekend that the other stores were closed. It was crazy times. But anyway, and I was happy to do it. And so I finally said, you know what, I want to get on my feet. So I want my own thing. So I went back to work in the stores. I did that for a few years. My dad said, hey, I'm opening this plaza. Do you want to open a dry cleaner? And I said, sure, why not? It's my own business. I wanted to get my feet wet to be my own person. I wanted my own business. So I said, yeah, sure. Hindsight is 20/20 always, right? If I said, instead of a dry cleaner, I want to open a food franchise, oh my God, I'd be sitting back. I'd be retired by now, but I didn't do it because I said, yeah, I was 24 at the time. No, I think I was 23 at the time. So what do you know as a 23-year-old? Your dad says, here, go do that. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. So I went, I borrowed money from the bank. I opened the business. I hated it. I hated it so much. I did not want to touch people's dirty clothes. So a year later, I sold it. I sold the company. I sold my company, my little store, and to a pharmacist who's actually still in the location right now. Wow. After 20 years, still in that location. And I'm very, very happy I made that decision because he handed me a check. What did I do with that money? Bought my first house. Wow. Loved it, hated the process because the agent was terrible. That was a long time ago. Me and my husband bought, we had a couple kids. That was our first house. Then we wanted to upgrade because the kids were getting older and we wanted to be in a better school district. We moved to a little bigger house. Very happy that we did that. It was a bigger house. I also didn't do the transaction. I didn't have my license then. But then when I went to go sell that house to buy the house that we're in now, I didn't have my license, but I was on top of the real estate agent and really paying attention and watching him. When I was pregnant with my kids, I went back to school for interior design. So that's why I know, staging and interior design. Once I got my staging started to become popular when I got my license, my not my real estate license, but my design certificate from college.
Mhm.
I went to Sheridan College. It was so exciting. I graduated with honors. So, so my teacher said too, she goes, I actually wanted to continue to like more of interior design, which is like a step up of like, it's sort of in between architecture and decorating.
Mhm.
So, you know, there's more structural stuff. I could do more mechanical stuff, right? But then for me to go back to school, I had 2 babies at home. I had a full-time job. I just said, forget it. And one of my teachers said, while I was taking this course, she said, you're so good. Just put your shingle out as a decorator and do it. So I did that. So I was 2 babies at home, full-time job, my own decorating business.
Wow.
And then I started staging. I worked for other agents. They said, oh, we could never do what you do. And I go, yeah, but I could do what you do. And I could really see the service was not there.
Mhm.
Like the service that they were offering to their clients was not there.
Right.
And I said, well, you know, this is ridiculous. And one of those agents that I asked her, I said, you know what, I want to get into income properties. Show me a couple properties. And she did. And then I would walk around the house and go, okay, well, if I, you know, change the panel, the electrical panel, that's going to cost me like whatever, $3,000 or $5,000. And then the kitchen is going to cost me another 10 grand. Like by the time I start making money in this house, it's not going to be worth it. And she didn't even have that sense of saying, like, she didn't ask me the right questions. She didn't say, how much money do you want to put down? Do you want to flip it or do you want to own it and rent it? None of that. No questions at all. So then I would walk around and say, you know, this and this is going to cost, you know, new flooring is going to cost this much and this, and I don't like the layout and da-da-da. She said, you know what, you sound like you know what you're doing. Why don't you just get your license? And then you can save money on a commission. And I went, so you're
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but you're telling me to not be your client anymore? You're telling me I don't want you as a client? So I said, okay, how hard is it? So I went back and I talked to my husband at the time and I said, what do you think? And he goes, yeah, go do it. Do it. Why not? Try it. So obviously knowing what I know now about business, it's still not an easy, like real estate is not easy by any stretch of the imagination, unless you have somebody already in the business, like your parent. There's a lot of nepotism in the real estate world where kids take over for their parents. You have siblings, you have like all these teams that are families, right? Husband and wife teams. So I find that somebody has gotten the ball rolling already, right? Those are really successful agents because they hire their family to keep the money in the house, right? So I didn't do that. I went on my own. I studied on my own. I did everything on my own, which again, you and I have talked about that. That's not a great thing to do. It's very difficult. It's very lonely.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm still looking for that. You know, of course I could start a team now. I've been in the business long enough that I could do that. But if I had to do it again, I would have joined a team. I would have really found a brokerage that was more of a family oriented, that I would have a mentor built in, which I never found. So if you're interested in the real estate business, that's a very difficult thing. Even before you start taking courses, look for a mentor. That's the thing that I would, and it's all BS too. Really get them to pinpoint what exactly they're going to help you with, because a lot of them just say, yeah, of course I'll mentor you, but I'll take like 30% of your commission.
Of course, it's very similar in the financial services industry as well. You know, the majority of people that want to take you on is because they're going to take some commission from you, and they really don't have your best interest at heart. So it is hard. It
is. But I believe in the world of real estate, and I love it. And that's sort of where, not sort of, but definitely I found my passion, my thing.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a little hokey when you talk, oh yeah, people, you know, they found their passion. But honestly, I get so excited. So my background today, this is why I picked my background. So this was my dream. This dream is my cottage or my Airbnb that I bought in 2018.
Beautiful.
Fully renovated it. It took me about 6 months to renovate. I almost like pulled out my hair, cried almost, not every day. It took me maybe about 3 months to start crying because I was like, I can't go back. Like, what have I done? You know, like we all have that moments where you're like, and I know even with home buyers too, if they're like their first home buyer too.
You always have second thoughts. Believe me, it happened to me in my very first property. Oh my God. The first contractor that I had, he went to jail and he disappeared. Can you believe that?
Oh my
And
God.
he was recommended. Oh my God.
What did he go to jail for?
It. I think he owed taxes, but probably was half the story. I don't know. But he just disappeared one day, just was gone.
Okay, well, I should thank my lucky stars that didn't happen. But actually, you know what? The guy that was working on this property too, he sort of had some funny business too. I think he lost. So I had the electrician come back to do some tweaking, and I said, "Oh, have you talked to the guy that, because he was like a subcontractor." So I said, "Have you talked to the contractor?" I don't want to say his name. He goes, "Oh yeah, I think he had to go to jail," or he was like, because he didn't drive, so he had his license taken away. But then he drove, like he always drove to every site, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he said, yeah, I think he got caught driving, and I think he might be in jail, something like that. I don't know if you go to jail for not having your. I don't know how it works. But anyway, yeah, really, if you're hiring contractors, make sure you don't just get a referral, but you actually know their background a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. Talk to their previous clients. Try and talk to the other trades that they work with.
Yeah.
Try and
meet people. It was my very first contractor. Oh dear God. I almost quit before I started.
I know. And that's the thing, that we all have these setbacks. And like what Araceli started saying about, being in this transitional time. So right now, I am going through one of the biggest transitions of my life. And it's really, there are, like, on top of COVID, every day I go, oh my God, can I just go to sleep and wait till COVID's over, and then I'll wake up and everything will be back to
fine, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a lot. So currently,
but just remember, this is not going to be forever. It's going to pass.
I know. So right now, so if you can relate to this, you can relate to Araceli too. Right now I'm going through a separation and a divorce. I want to keep both houses. I really, my kids are grown. I don't have to worry about, child support or spousal support or anything like that. So it's not terrible. It's not, and we are amicable, but it's still a transition.
But there's a lot of emotional things. You know what? At least I'll tell you for myself, I really felt like a failure, because in the end, you have two people and you have half of the fault, right?
So right, but it's also but it's also like you failed at your marriage, you failed your kids, you failed at this magical life that you had in your mind, that this is what's going to happen. This is the way.
It's never magical.
Well, yeah, to say like this is forever. Like, I can't believe anybody still thinks that marriages are forever and it's going to be perfect forever. Like, it just doesn't, like, in our day and age, if you think of like technology and you think of all the things that we have at our fingertips, and then to say, oh, we're living longer than we've ever lived before, and we want to be with the same person. I commend you, people that are married forever. I really do.
We need to interview a few of those to find out what they're doing.
Right, but it's also for women too, to say, look at, like, we're so more independent than we've ever been before, but it does get lonely. It does get very difficult, and we are here. And this is the thing that I don't know how many times I can say this, and I'll keep saying it, but we are here for you, like, not just on a client to, a relationship, but on a personal relationship. My best friend is a past client. I cannot tell you that. Would I've ever imagined that? No. Would I've ever, if I didn't speak to her, the way we met was so funny. If I didn't say, hey, I like your shirt when we first met, would we even be friends? Never mind,
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I really love about my being in business and buying real estate, because I have met so many people that I consider my family.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And so right back at you. So this is the thing, that Araceli and I are like sisters, because we believe in the whole thing of being in a partnership or helping each other. If I have a problem, one of the first people I call is you, and to say, hey, what do I do? I have this, I'm because sometimes things are debilitating, right? Let's just say it out loud.
Absolutely.
And instead of being in yourself to say, oh, feel sorry for me, I'm just gonna, because I don't know what to do. Sometimes you're frozen.
Yeah. Well, what happens is that you're you're stressed out. And when
Yeah.
you're stressed out, then you can't think.
Yes.
And you need to have an external force to tell you, okay, hold on a second, let's look at it from a different point of view.
Right.
And that sometimes is all you need.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Just to give you a point of view and
Yeah.
to tell you how we got here, why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I hope that that really helped you understand why we put these shows together for you. And that if you want to have more answers, anything that you want to know in regards to finances or real estate investing, we're here for you to tell you what we've gone through. Because
Yeah.
we've gone through so many stories, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's
well, and the one thing too, like, I don't know if you, so I treat myself as my worst client. I call myself that because before I bought this cottage, I was looking for 4 years before I actually bought this cottage. I made offers on maybe, I think, 3 other places. And every time I talked myself out of it because the numbers didn't work out.
mm-hmm.
If I had somebody like Araceli to say, hey, listen, can I put these numbers past you? And then you can look at them a little bit different because when it is your first, let's talk about income property. When it is your first income property, you really look at the hard numbers to say, okay. And there's a lot of, these companies that say, oh, we'll train you and we'll teach you about all this stuff. A lot of those companies, I don't know if we both agree on this, but a lot of those numbers are fudged.
Totally.
Sometimes they don't tell you the right amount of rentals that you can, it's too high. There's no, especially now in this market.
Yeah.
I'm working with somebody who's looking for an income property, and I said, look, in that market, rents are down like 20%.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's very hard to find a renter. So what are we going to do? Do you really want to buy? So even though your nut is covered, is that good enough for you? And what's your long-term projection?
You have to have different strategies, but that we're going to leave it for a different episode.
Yes. Okay. I know we're out of time.
Basically, we wanted to give you just a quick overview of who we are. And if there's any questions, please let us know. If you want to know any more, we can let you know. So for now, that's all the time we have.
Yeah. But please don't hesitate. Ask us questions. We love to help.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Colette, for sharing that. And we will see you next week with some more of ACDC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye-bye for now.